Hi guys, it's Pabby. Wanted to do a quick video for a couple of reasons really. First of all, wanted to obviously talk about the week that we've just had with Novak Djokovic winning his 100th career title in Geneva. A simply phenomenal achievement, and so pleased that he's managed to get it done. And the second bit that I really want to talk about is the 2 weeks ahead. Obviously, Roland Garros started yesterday, and Novak Djokovic starts his match against Mackenzie McDonald, which he has actually just started as I'm doing this video as we speak. So no further to do. I just want to talk about Geneva. Novak Djokovic had a really rough clay court season. He hadn't recorded a single win with his defeats against Tabilo in Monte Carlo and then Arnaldi in Madrid. So he didn't manage to get a single win on clay. I think there was reasons for that. I think in Monte Carlo he shouldn't have played really. I think he probably played there because he's still got a lot of family and friends in Monte Carlo, maybe some sponsorship obligations. But I still think he was struggling with his eye, and I think he even alluded to that a couple of days after, saying that he probably in hindsight shouldn't have played. So I didn't really count that much. He then played Madrid. Madrid is somewhere that he hasn't really played a lot in the last few years. It doesn't really suit his game. The conditions and altitude is different. He normally plays Rome, so he played Madrid this year. He lost to the talented Italian Arnaldi, and then obviously decided that he wasn't going to play Rome. So he went into Geneva without a single clay court win, and a lot of people writing him off. And just as it happens with Djokovic a lot, he does get the opportunities to avenge defeats, and more often than not, he takes that opportunity. And who did he face in the second round? It was Arnaldi again. Arnaldi had beaten Djokovic comfortably in straight sets in Madrid. But this time there was a different Djokovic. He returned the favour and he beat him also in straight sets. So, we already knew then that from the first round match when he was playing, when he got a win against Fucsovic, that he was back. And he was more than back and just playing. His persona was back. Um, he's got I think he broke a racket. He smashed a racket, which I don't think he's done this year actually. I don't think he's done that for a while, so that kind of just showed that he was just kind of getting some of that kind of power, the motivation, and it's so important for Djokovic to have that through his game, because he hasn't got, he's not a serve or volleyer, or he hasn't got the biggest of serves, or the biggest of ground strokes, but he's got that amazing ground strokes and depth. But to get that going, you need intensity. You need it to be fired up. You need to kind of really focus on all your ground strokes. And we saw that this week. We saw that with this week in Geneva. We saw him roaring at the box and yelling and screaming and shouting. And that's the Djokovic we know and love. And the doomslayers and the sanctimonious will say, oh, well, you shouldn't be doing that, you shouldn't be doing that. They don't want him to do that, because they know that a flat Djokovic is not a good Djokovic on the court. Djokovic needs to be fired up, and it was exactly the same for Andy Murray. When Andy Murray was playing at his best, it was when he was shouting and screaming and swearing and berating him, because they had very, very similar games. And it's interesting that obviously Djokovic went into Geneva with the news that he wasn't going to be working with Andy Murray anymore. And we never saw Djokovic kind of berating at Andy Murray. I think there was probably too much respect there. And maybe that was one of the reasons why he felt, well, there's got a huge amount of respect there. Both of them have grown up. Both of them are great friends, great rivals as well. And maybe that was something that was missing. And obviously Dusan Vemic has come in, and he looks to have done a very good job in preparing Djokovic for Geneva. So that kind of went on. He then played Cam Norrie. Cam Norrie had beaten Alexei Popyrin, a top 25 player. That was Djokovic's the opponent that everyone expected would be his opponent. next up, but it was Cam Norrie, and Norrie played phenomenally well in the match against Popperin. He actually won the final set without even making a single enforced error. So you can just kind of tell you how well he was playing. He took a set of Djokovic, but then Djokovic kind of honed in and recorded a really really good win. And then obviously the final, Herbie Hurkacz's former top 10 player who's coming back to some great form. It's the best that I've ever seen Hurkacz serve on a clay court. I think he served 21 aces, which is phenomenal, really. On a clay court, and he found himself in a winning position, 4-2 up in the final set. At that point, he hadn't lost a single point on this serve in that set. So Djokovic was down and out. How he dug and how he kind of managed to break back and then obviously do what he does all the time. Novak Djokovic wins 2 tie breaks, wins his 100th title in Geneva in front of all of his family. His parents were there, his kids were there. That's, quite rare these days for all of his family to be there. I think they felt that something special was going to happen that week, and it did. It was his birthday week. It couldn't have been better. And he gets to his 100. He gets to his 100. All those people that are writing him off, saying that he should retire, saying that he can't win events anymore, saying that he can't play with the young players anymore, all that BS that we've kept holding. All it does, it simply fuels Djokovic to keep on going. And I was really pleased, not just with his win, but with the way, his attitude, his persona. He just looked like he really wanted it. There's been a few matches this year where he's looked a little bit disinterested. He hasn't really got pumped up. And, as a fan of Djokovic for many, many years now, I always get worried when Djokovic seems flat, because that's when I think opponents can take advantage of him, and his game then becomes flat as well. So I was really, really, really pleased, for many, many reasons. In terms of his playing ability, it was up there. Obviously he's had a difficult clay court season. He's had injuries and illnesses this year, so it's not all been his fault. These things happen with any professional athlete. But I was happy with his performance. I thought he served really, really well. I thought he moved really, really well. He's not at the peak of his game, and he'll admit that himself. But he will always try and be peak towards a Grand Slam. And that kind of leads on to Roland Garros now and my expectations for him. So he's already said in the conference, post-match conference, that he did feel a bit of strain and stress of being on 99. Obviously, he had a chance at Shanghai in the final. He lost to Sinner towards the end of last year, and then this year he went into Miami as a big favourite to beat Jakub Mensik. He hadn't lost a single set going into that Miami final a couple of months ago. The worst timing ever. He picked up that eye infection, and he ended up losing 7-6, 7-6 to the talented Mensik. So I think it was starting to play on his mind a little bit, because he was thinking, well, I don't want to be stuck on this 99 for too much longer. But he's got that monkey off his back now. I think that will see him just kind of for him it gives him so much confidence that he can still win titles. It doesn't matter if it's a 250, 500. That field in Geneva had a lot of top 25, top 30 players in there, so it was a decent field. It was a good field that he had in there, and that he can still beat younger players. And Oldie is bang on form at the moment. Is a young Italian who absolutely comfortably beat Djokovic a few weeks ago, and Djokovic manages to return the favour. So I think from his point of view, he's got his confidence back. My only issue is that he hasn't got a lot of recovery time. So for Roland Garros, he left Geneva a few hours after he won the title. He's then taking part in the Nadal farewell ceremony, so he's still not having a lot of time to rest. He's then got to do media, and now he's starting his match against Mackenzie McDonald. A match that he should win relatively comfortably on paper. But then he's got, potentially seven matches, tough matches if he wants to go and win Roland Garros here, which is why I think that this Roland Garros for me is come a little bit too early. I think Djokovic probably needed a little bit more of a rest, a little bit more of games on clay, wins on clay to win Roland Garros. But I expect him to go have a good run. I expect him to go have a good run. I've said at the start of the season that I expect Djokovic to get to 25 Grand Slams this year. But I've always said that I feel that his best chances to do that are going to be at Wimbledon, at US Open, where I think Djokovic, if he can stay fit, he's got an excellent chance to win one of those slams, and I do believe that he will go on and do so. So Roland Garros for me isn't one with huge pressure. I think the fact that he's won Geneva and he's consolidated his place back in the top 10, which is not particularly important. Djokovic isn't bothered about rankings, but it's important for the Wimbledon and US Open. You don't want to be falling down the rankings too much and then end up playing, someone like Alcaraz and Sinner in round 4 or something like that. So I'm glad that he's consolidated his place in the top 10. He's actually not a million miles off the top 5 now as well, so he could actually find himself in the top 4 going into Wimbledon US Open, which would mean that he wouldn't face the likes of Alcaraz and Sinner until the semi-final, until the business end, and that's really when Djokovic is kind of honing himself in to be at his peak condition. I've not got huge expectations for Roland Garros. I expect him to do well. I expect him to make it to the second week, go deep, maybe quarters, semi. I think to win Roland Garros is going to be a big ask, because he's coming into Roland Garros off the back of his first wins of clay just a week before. He hasn't had any rest from Geneva. And for Roland Garros, for any slam, you need to kind of have the mixture of wins, but also rest as well. Rest is important. Form is important. You need to have every single bit of ingredient going your way to win a slam. And if anyone can, Novak Djokovic can. We know that he's done that time and time again, even with injuries. But I think his best chance will be Wimbledon and US Open. But I can go into the Roland Garros with no pressure. He's got no pressure. He's got the monkey of the back. So yeah, just excited and absolutely delighted, obviously, that Djokovic has got to 100 titles. A phenomenal achievement, and I can confidently say that I don't think this is going to be his last title. He's got Federer not far away now, 103. I think Connors holds the all-time record of 109, I believe it is. So he's closing in on those as well. But I know Djokovic. He would have this year. He would have had two big motivation and big targets. One of them was to get 100 titles, and the second one was to get 25 Grand Slams. I think those are his two, priorities this year, and he's done one of them now. And he's got 3 slams to have a go at trying to get that 25 in 2025, which will be nice. Really, really pleased. Looking forward to Roland Garros. As I said, Djokovic has just started his match against Mackenzie McDonald. The weather doesn't look great in Paris. It's not going to suit Djokovic today. It's very windy. We all know in the last few years his main opponent's been the wind. He doesn't like playing in the wind. It doesn't suit his game. He's not a big fan of that. So he's going to have to grind and fight today. And then potentially he's got a tricky match against Corentin Moutet in the next match if he comes through today. And we know that Moutet is bang on form and he's a very strong clay court player. So that's not going to be easy. But I'm going to enjoy the Roland Garros. Looking forward to seeing both tours, or men's and women's, and hope it's a great event. That's all for me today. Congratulations to Djokovic. Hope all of you are keeping well, and we'll enjoy the next couple of weeks of Grand Slam tennis. We all love it. So take care. See you guys soon, and God bless all.